I've had, as I've told a lot of you tonight, I've been a damn lucky guy. Everything I've done is what I've wanted to do, and God bless any of you who can do that. I just always went along for the ride. As Chris Ford knows, back in the days we were shooting line drive shots at St. Michael's, no higher ceiling than we have in here, right, Chris? Chris always wanted to know why Chris was shooting a line driver. Well, because that was the ceiling we all grew up with at the place we played ball. And I got my start in sport. I never really knew what I wanted to do, but I was 16 years old. I was injured playing football. And as my brother will say, Larry, that Dad said, "You aren't built for football, boy. Why don't you try something else?" But little did I know that was the start of my career. The coach, Stan Marzik, God rest his soul, said, you're not going to be with us for the rest of the season. Go up to the broadcast booth and see what you can do up there. And really that's what started it. And I got into radio as a sportscaster, and then that summer they asked me to play some records on the radio. And one of the records I played was by a guy who's here tonight, Bobby Rydell. Bobby! One of your records was the first I played on the air. I'm the guy. Sorry about that. And, like I said, I just go with the flow and ride with the tide, and I said, this seems pretty good. I had no intention of doing what I was doing, and at the beginning you could tell that I had no idea what I was doing. But I had no intention of being a jet fighter pilot either, but these things come along, you just, okay, I'll try this, I'll try that. And then, is Dean here? Did Dean make it? Anyway, as I'm playing music, I was a lifeguard in the summertime, and then, can you I get off duty at 6 o'clock? Okay, come on the air at 8 o'clock. And some of the people from WIP in Philadelphia heard me and said, we're trying to get WIP to play some rock and roll. And with Ken Garland, Tom Moran, where's Tom Moran? Tom Moran's here, I know he is. Stand up, Tom. He is standing up, so that's an old joke. They said, come on up here and infuse some rock and roll to WIP, and then we went from Tony Bennett to Mick Jagger, and that was the infusion of music. But before that, I spent some years in Atlantic City at WOND, and Walt Murphy, right there next to Tom Moran, he was on the FM side, playing all kinds of classical music, and we're over on the AM side kicking ass with rock and roll. But little did we know that FM was going to be the rule later on. And that, as I was saying, people like Dean Tyler and the program director WIP were listening to me on the beach in Wildwood and said, we're going to try to morph some rock and roll or contemporary music into WIP, and we'd like you to help us do that because you know it, and Ken Garland doesn't know it, and Bill Weber, he's Uncle Willie, and that was the beginning of my career here in Philadelphia. And as a member of the WIP staff, they asked me to come and answer some telephones at a telethon, and I did, and two guys from the baseball world, Tim McCarver, one of them, came over as a guest. The Cardinals were playing the Phillies that day, and somebody said, does anybody know anything about these two guys? Jerry Royce, who was with the Cardinals at that time, and Tim McCarver. And they said, we don't want to embarrass these guys by asking them dumb questions. Does anybody know who these guys are? And I said, yeah, I know who they are. Well, could you interview them? So I did for the telethon, and after the telethon was over, the general manager of the station, Channel 17 at the time, said, can you come in and talk with me for a while? I said, we just signed a contract to do 76ers basketball for 5 years, and we already have our play-by-play guy, Bill Campbell. Yeah, and you don't want me, do you, the Candyman? Yes, we do. And I said, yeah, You got it. However, I just came on, I had only been at WIP for 1 year. So I said, well, can I go and tell our general manager, because, you know, how many games do you want me to do? Well, we did all the away games. And I said, well, you know, it's Seattle, Los Angeles. I said, that adds up to like 50 or 60 days off. So I came to the general manager, and he said, fine. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm only at WIP for 1 year. That's how fortunate I am. And I mean, I'm just luckiest son of a bitch in the world. So he said, just put in your times that you need off, and we'll work it out. We'll fill in for you. And so I did 76ers basketball for some 6 years. And the irony of that whole thing is, my shift when I first started at WIP was from 8 to midnight. And when did the game start? So I was actually, the games were simulcast on 12:10, which was a competitor of 6:10. I was on opposite myself. How the hell do you get away with that? And I did. And then Channel 3 called and said, we need a weekend anchor. Can you come in? You know, fine, okay. You know, I've never had to send out an audition tape. I wouldn't know how to do one. I've never sent out a resume. And you know, that's just part of me being, as I said, the luckiest guy on earth. I really am. Guys in the business know what that means. Chris May, you can understand what that is. How'd you get away with that? And so I started doing sports at Channel 3, and back in 1979, Hurricane David was coming up the coast. They already sent Joe Woody to cover the storm down in Miami, and Michael, you know this, they want a weather presence on these 11 o'clock news when there's a big storm. They can't just have the anchors do this. Let's have a guy who knows what the hell he's talking about do it. Well, I had already done the 6 o'clock sports, and they called me in to do the 11 o'clock weather. I said, well, what makes you think I'm that guy? I'm a sports guy. I'm a jock. And they said, well, you were a pilot in the Navy. You must have. Yeah, but that's all military stuff. Right, Cam? Where's Cameron Blake? Former commanding officer, Naval Air Station, Pensacola. Also, Naval Air Station, Road. I just gave you a field promotion. I'm sorry. So, and that started my weather thing. So in 1884, and Michael Barkan, who is here with me tonight, he'll appreciate that. In 1984, they came to me and said, we have to make a decision here. You're doing weather and sports, and I was still working at WIP, so I quit WIP and came to Channel 3. And they said, well, we need, I said, well, how much do you need a weather guy? And I said, let me talk to my agent here, Rich Glazer, and he'll work out some deal with you. And at the same time, weather was getting more time and sports was getting less time. I had 5 minutes of sports back when I was 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And on weekends I'd have 6 or 7. And then it was getting down, and so I made the right decision. Again, luckiest SOB there is. I mean, I just happened to choose the right profession, and midway through my career, and I did weather up until, 3 weeks ago. And that's a captain summary.